Today's high-stakes hearing for O.J. Simpson. In just a few hours, he will face the Nevada Parole Board. They're going to decide today if he can walk free. Right now, O.J.'s still behind bars at the Lovelock prison in Nevada. You see it right there. ABC's Matt Gutman is on the scene. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, George. And it's right through that barbed wire, inside that little blue door there, to O.J. Simpson, his family, and his victim will sit for that parole board hearing. Now, Simpson will be in his prison blues, and you mentioned those high stakes. It is not a certainty that he will get paroled. Denial could mean another 3 years at this prison. What is a certainty is that millions will be watching.
He was paid
from the trial of the century.
The trial of the century. Courtroom battle of the century.
That is not
to the
true.
Parole hearing of the century. 150 million tuning in to see that verdict back in 1995.
Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder.
Crowding around TV sets on street corners. Now, 22 years later, today's parole hearing will be streamed live, even watched on iPhones, with potentially millions watching whether O.J. will get parole.
I am just sorry that I had to send the state of Nevada legal system through all of this.
If a majority of the 6 parole commissioners grant his release today, inmate 102-7820, as he's been known these past 9 years, could officially be released as early as October 1st. Among those set to address the parole board, the victim of that botched robbery back in 2007, Bruce Fremont, who spoke to Inside Edition, supporting Simpson's bid for parole.
It was the amount of time. He's done his time.
As for how the Hall of Famer will make a living if released, it's believed he could make significant money by signing his autograph on merchandise. And Simpson receives an NFL pension of $25,000 a month, money that's protected by federal law, including protection against that $33.5 million judgment awarded to Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman's families in a civil suit against Simpson in 1997.
So he gets that $25,000 a month, and the Goldmans can't get a penny of it.
Now, the families can go after every other dime that Simpson makes, and here's how the parole board process is going to go. They're going to sit in there, and Simpson will get a chance to answer questions from the board. Also, Bruce Fremont will have a chance to make a statement. He tells us he will speak on behalf of Simpson. Then the board will break off, deliberating for probably about half an hour, and make a ruling.
When a nation comes together to help a city recover, and Goldman Sachs joins the effort to help, a community gets the investment it needs, and the city of New Orleans makes progress.
Great.
Some places charge you $5 whole for a deal like this. Well, we got beef with that. And fries, and pie, and a drink for just $4. The 4 for $4 deal. Some places charge you $5 whole for a deal like this. Well, we got beef with that. And fries, and pie, and a drink for just $4. The 4 for $4 deal. Charge you $5 whole for a deal like this? Well, we got beef with that. And fries, and pie, and a drink for just $4. The 4 for $4 deal. Some places charge you $5 whole. Some places charge you $5 whole. Some places charge you $5 whole. Some places charge you $5 whole.
upper right corner. It seems to be centered. The podium behind us is right at Jason's right shoulder.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, you guys are good. So that's where we won't need to move the camera setting over at Lovelock. The only times we're going to set it here will be when somebody testifies here. Then, of course, you guys are going to move, so whoever's testifying will sit down at the table. Let me show you the
They said they were good.
panel shot.
I didn't know it was our end. Sorry.
Okay, so this will be the panel shot. Can you see everybody clearly, or the chairs clearly on your screen there?
Can't see the person on the left.
You have a person to your right with an open laptop. We see a set of hands, but no person.
Yeah, that's okay. That's our recording secretary for the hearing. So, but you can see the 4 chairs perfectly
Can we
well.
borrow your notebook for a second?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, the chair with your hand, your left hand, who sits there?
Right. Commissioner Corda.
Next to Corda's right.
Will be Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you. Next.
Charlie Bisbee.
If I ever need to come back, I don't want
And
Commissioner Endel. Endel, E-N-D-E-L.
understood. Thank you.
Okay, so basically we're going to start letting people get set up inside here, and so we're going to put you on standby, but we will give you guys a heads up as soon as we get close.
We have.
We're expecting to start right at 10.
We have, they've had this microphone was muted previously so that the ambient noise here didn't switch back and forth. I'll mute it again.
Yeah, we will too. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, for everyone else coming in here, obviously everyone's going to be in here way before Mr. Simpson, right? So like if there are other people I need to get names, I can do that before the hearing starts.
I have them, I can tell you.
That's okay. I would love to just ask them.
Yeah,
So
much
that's
better.
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, you're gonna love this. The New York Times just called. They're at the checkpoint. They didn't pre-credential. They're not coming.
New York Times out.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I know.
Because they think they're so big.
It's the New York Times. If I have you talk to my editor, is there anything I can do? I said, it's a safety and security risk for me to open that gate to anyone that we don't know is pre-credential. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. Yeah, I'll tell hard ass in a situation like this. So whatever they just said, that's the way it is.
Okay, so OJ is sitting where the remote is. His attorney is sitting in the other chair.
Okay.
Then the family members will be sitting over here, and the two that are speaking will get up and walk over and sit in the attorney's chair, or?
Yes.
Okay.
When the victim speaks, those two will get up and walk over there and sit in those chairs.
Okay.
I'm not the attorney, when the victim speaks, he'll come in and sit up front, and those two will be in those
OJ
chairs.
and the attorney will sit over there. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't.
You may wanna just do a look back for that.
That's what I was. Well, and then I'm gonna go in on the people speaking.
Good. That's fair. So, switched it? How? He switched it. I'm not touching it, are you kidding me? Whatever they say is what goes. Nothing we can do about it, it's not there. New York Times, I can't believe that, you guys, I would've loved to have them on site.
So we have. There's gonna be one victim's gonna be over here.
He's gonna be sitting right here.
Oh, right now, right behind me. Can you give me his name?
Bruce, and to be honest, I can't even tell you his last name.
I just gave it to you. F-R-O-M-O-N-G.
That's what I thought.
Bruce, B-R-U-C-E, F-R-O.
The goal.
Who's that? Two sitting next to you. Those are the reporters?
When a company that
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and just so you know, once they conclude the first part of the hearing, we're going to let the board leave, and then once they've gone to another part of the building, if we'll let you guys go out to talk, and then we'll be coming back on, giving everybody a 5-minute heads up to come back in.
Can I ask you a
Come
question?
back in. Sure.
So when the board, the 4 panelists who are being present, so they leave to confer after the hearing is completed. They just be conferring among just the 4 of them, and if they reach a majority decision, an unanimous decision among the 4 of them, then it'll be their decision, or will the 2 others who are watching in from Las Vegas participate from the start, or?
They will come out, they will not decide in private, they will come out and vote publicly. So
They'll vote out here?
Correct.
Okay, so they're just gonna be consulting, they're not actually holding a vote there?
Correct.
Decision will actually come here?
That's correct.
All right, so if the 4
we're in the attorney room that we had there. So I just one quick thing. Look at that.
Go for it. Good morning. This is the time and date set for the Arnel James Simpson parole hearing. Lovelock, can you hear me?
Morning.
Okay, good morning. May we have the officer and caseworker assigned this morning come to the table there so we can see you and let us know who we're working with? Who do we have here, guys?
Morning. This is Officer Batista, Lovelock Correctional Center, caseworker LaFleur.
Okay, gentlemen, what we're going to be doing this morning is after the two of you leave the area and back to where you're going to be, I'm going to have Officer Batista, I'm going to have you bring Mr. Simpson in, and we will go from there. The camera angle that you've got is perfect. If you'll keep your camera right there, that'll allow us to see the people we're supposed to be seeing. And caseworker LaFleur, I will refer to you if you'll have your program up and your computer system up. There are some questions I'm going to be asking you to confirm for us, so if you'll be ready to do that, I would appreciate that. So gentlemen, if you'll go to your spots for me and bring Mr. Simpson, and I believe he has representation with him, if you'll bring them to the table, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it.
Right. Thanks. Let's put more space for me.
Good morning, gentlemen. If you'll take a seat, please.
Thank you.
And you are Arnel James Simpson?
Correct.
And Mr. Simpson, will you please give me your NDOC number for the record?
1027820.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Simpson. And you're represented by whom this morning?
Mr. Malcolm Laverne, my attorney.
Okay, and welcome, Mr. Laverne. Mr. Simpson, the first thing I'm going to do is put on the record your notice of this hearing and advisement of rights and ask you if you will recognize your signature for me, please.
Yes, I believe, yes.
Okay, thank you. Having recognized your signature, I'll declare for the record that you've been properly noticed and will go forward.
Okay.
I'm Chairman Bisbee. With me this morning to the right is Commissioner Arnel.
Sir.
To my left is Commissioner Jackson, and then to her left is Commissioner Corda.
Sir.
We're seeing you
Sir.
this morning on an aggregated case sentence, and that is cases number C237890, count 9, assault with a deadly weapon, C237890, count 6, use of deadly weapon enhancement, C237890, count 10, assault with a deadly weapon, C237890, count 5, use of a deadly weapon enhancement, C237890, count 8, use of a deadly weapon enhancement, C237890, count 7, use of a deadly weapon enhancement. And one of the things I want you to make you aware, those enhancements include both to the kidnapping and the robbery charges, even though they're not necessarily the way I've said it, make that clear. And a caseworker LaFleur, I have a parole eligibility date of October 1, 2017, with a current expiration date of September 29, 2022. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have a parole eligibility 2017 and expiration date of September 29, 2022.
Now, at this point, caseworker LaFleur, is there anything that would change that parole eligibility date?
That parole eligibility date is not going to change.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Simpson, you are getting the same hearing that everyone else gets. I want to make that clear from the get-go. However, since we have a crowd of people here that have not taken advantage of our public meetings before in order to attend a hearing, some of the things I'm going to say are going to get a little bit lengthy. So you will understand everything, but it will be new information for some other folks. So just wanted to let you know that from the get-go. So I will tell you that as appointed members of the Nevada Board of Parole Commissioners, we have an ethical duty to consider each inmate for parole in a fair and consistent manner. Like other parole boards across the country, our responsibilities include needing to balance prisoner rehabilitation with public safety, as well as taking action that considers the interests of justice. So that's what we're doing here this morning. We have adopted a guideline to assist us in making consistent decisions. We apply the elements and factors of our guideline to each inmate being considered for parole. A component of the guideline is our risk assessment. The board uses a scientifically developed, validated risk assessment as part of its parole guideline. The risk assessment helps us determine which inmates are more or less likely to return to prison if we release them on parole. Using a risk assessment is not unique to Nevada, as a number of other state parole boards also use them. We have revalidated our assessment 3 separate times in the past 14 years,
and has consistently shown to be predictive. Using this risk assessment has significantly improved our overall performance. I'm going to go over each of those items of the risk assessment with you at this time. And just as an aside, this risk assessment is being revalidated even as we speak by the JFA Institute. So it's pretty darn predictive is the bottom line here. So my first question for you, Mr. Simpson, were you arrested for the first time at the age of 24 or older?
I was arrested
for the first time, I think, at the age of 46 or 47.
Okay, so you were.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And am I correct that you have never been on parole or probation before, therefore you have never had a parole or probation revocation?
That is correct.
Okay. And I have that you were unemployed at the time of this offense because you were in retirement status.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, this is a property conviction. We're currently hearing you on the robberies and the enhancements. And so you have been assessed as a property offender. Now, we've also assessed you as having a substance abuse problem. I'll tell you why that is. You have indicated also in the past that alcohol had a big factor in this particular crime. And the fact that you have spent the last almost 9 years in prison because of an alcohol-related incident would be indicative of having some sort of at least temporary substance abuse problem. So we have scored you with having some history there. We have you as male, and we have that you are currently, well, very recently turned 90 years old. 90, I'm sorry about that. You look great for 90. Okay, so I'm gonna call you 70. Okay. We don't have you as having any gang affiliation, nor has the NDOC found you to have any gang involvement. We do note that you have completed one of the vocational trainings in having completed the completion course. We note that you have not had any, and that you're currently meeting. Would you say that all of those items are correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you do score out. Your risk score scores you in a low risk. However, because of your particular offense, that severity is the highest. When we combine your risk score along with your offense severity, our guideline recommendations are that we consider factors. Now, what consider factors means is we consider everything in terms of whether or not you're a risk to reoffend and return to our criminal justice system. And so what we do at this point, when we're looking at the risk score, we also look at what are called aggravating and mitigating factors. Now, aggravating and mitigating factors don't include everything in the world. They're very specific as to what we consider under those items also. So under the aggravating and mitigating factors in your particular case, we have mitigating or positive things for the fact that you've been disciplinary free. You have community and significant programming. On the aggravating factors, and the only thing that fits under our aggravating characteristics in terms of risk in your situation is that at the time of this offense, your victims indicated that they were in fear for their safety, having been threatened with a gun during the commission of a crime. So those are the risk, aggravating, mitigating things we are considering. That's your overall risk score. Right now, I'm going to stop talking for a while and ask the members of the panel if they might have any questions of you.
Yet you go and rob the two.
Well, this might be
I'll try to be brief with it. I had been contacted by a man named Reno. He had contacted me over a period to get him to fence Need security, OJ. This guy, Beardsley, big guy, and he's a little weird. I think anybody that knows him knows he's a little different. I still told him this guy is not dangerous, man, but he says, man, bring some security. During the day when he was there, he met people from the wedding, and one guy, McClinton, said he did security in Las Vegas, and it would help his business if he could have me as a client. I told him I didn't need him, but after he insisted that I bring security, I said, I can use your help. I went to the hotel. I met Mr. Riccio in the lobby. The two guys, they also met us there, which was a big mistake, obviously. I realized that quite soon after this. And Mr. Riccio led us to his room, put the key in the door, and let us in. I know I've seen the last 2 or 3 days the media reporting we broke in the room. Well, we didn't break in any room. Mr. Riccio brought us into that room. When I came into the room, I noticed spread out everywhere was my personal property. The only thing I saw that was on display that wasn't mine was some baseballs, and I made it clear to everybody, those are not mine. All I want is my property, and I think there's a tape of it. You hear me on at least 3 or 4 occasions say, I just want my property. Go forward and try to make it a little quicker. At some point, we started, when we're leaving the room, actually I was being pushed out of the room by the security guys because while I was in there and I recognized Bruce was there, I was surprised to see him as he testified. I was shocked really to see him. Bruce has been a friend of mine. He's traveled with me. We've done a lot of business together over the years. And he and I said, man, what are you doing here? He explained to me why he was there and why he had my property there. And I told him, but geez, you should have told me. I accepted, I understood why. It was 06, 07. People were losing their homes. A guy owed him money, couldn't pay him the money, gave him my property to sell. I told him I understood that, but you still should have told me. We had a chance to talk about this at a later date, and he apologized. I accepted his apology. I apologized for these 2 guys that got pointed a gun at him. He's traveled with me. He's known me when I've had security. He's known me when a venue has supplied security, and there were times he even had to act as security for me. He knows I would never, ever direct anybody to point a gun at him or even threaten him. I've never done this in my life. I want to point out, you mentioned all those gun charges. Bruce and Alfred, they made it clear during the trial that I had no weapon. They didn't feel threatened by me, and from what you said, and that I didn't threaten them. It was the other 2 security guys that did that. And I haven't made any excuses in the 9 years that I've been here, and I'm not trying to make an excuse now. They were there because of me, But in no way, shape, or form did I wish them any harm. As I was leaving the room, and this was on the tape too, Bruce said, OJ, hey man, there's a box that's with that stuff. They're Montana prints. Those don't belong to you. Those are mine, man. He told me that because he recognized everything else that I took out of that room was mine, And he also recognized that I wasn't there to steal his stuff, and he knew I would at the desk. I'll send you stuff at the desk. We didn't know at the time that this security guy, Walter Alexander, had stole his BlackBerry, phone. But the minute I saw that, I made him send it back, and he gave some cockamamie story in the trial that why he didn't take it back. In any event, I'm no danger to pull a gun on anybody. I never have in my life. I've never been accused of it in my life. Nobody's ever accused me of pulling any weapon on them. And Bruce knows that I would never do that. I never have. I want to also, as a postscript, add that, when I got to Lovelock, the state of California took up the issue of whose property it was. They did an investigation, and they came to the conclusion that it was my property. They turned it over to me. I have it now, So, it's kind of mind-boggling that they turned over to me property that I'm in jail for trying to retrieve. You know, it was my property. I wasn't there to steal from anybody. And I would never, ever pull a weapon on anybody.
So you believe that the property was yours?
It's been ruled legally by the state of California that it was my property, and they've given it to me. I have it.
My question was, that's why you went into the...
Oh, yeah, yes, sir.
Because you believed that the property was yours?
Yes, man. You know, whenever he was just telling me, when Mauricio was calling me, just telling me this, I wasn't interested. It wasn't until he got actual pictures of what they supposedly had, and because it was family photos and stuff, that's when I got interested in going there, and I only went there to retrieve my own property.
What were you thinking when the guns were being brandished?
Well, I didn't see the guns brandished. I didn't see, you say guns, as I understand it, one guy who was behind me somewhere pointed a gun at him. So I never saw him brandish a gun. When I left there, I called back to the room to ask Bruce, you said that there was some pictures, what do you have? And I asked him, did this Walter Alexander return his cell phone? He told me no, and he says, OJ, it wasn't cool that guy pointed a gun at me. I said, who pointed a gun at you? He says that, he kind of described who it was. To be honest, I didn't really believe him at the time. I asked the 3 guys I was with, they all said they didn't see him do it. I got back to my hotel, we waited for these 2 security guys to show up. And the minute they drove up, the first thing I said, man, did you pull a gun in that room? And he swore to high heaven he didn't. And I asked Walter Alexander for the cell phone, and he kind of threw the cell phone to me. But I wasn't aware until I was in the car driving back to our hotel that this guy had actually pointed a gun at him. Now, earlier in the day when he had, when he was talking to me, trying to get me to let him come, I didn't hire him. He said it was for free and all of that. He did show me. I didn't know this guy. You know, I knew the Alexander guy, but I didn't know this guy. He showed me his license. He showed me his CCR. You know, I would assume that the state gives a guy a CCR and stuff. They vetted him. I should have vetted him. I didn't really need him. I knew these guys weren't dangerous. So that was on me.
Your version of the offenses differ a little bit of the official records, Mr. Simpson, but moving forward here, considering the fact that what we have on record,
yeah,
weapons were brandished, you were there.
Oh, I was there. I mean, I'm sorry.
So
yeah.
My next question is for you, is what do you think was the impact on your victims?
Well, I know what the impact was. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, Mr. Beardsley, we had long talks back then. He told me that he had tried to call my lawyer. He testified in court that he had called my lawyers and tried to tell them in the months previous that guys had my property and they were trying to sell them, but my lawyer never called him back. He actually testified for me, I'm sure you know, during the trial. Bruce and I talked, and you know, Bruce was traumatized by it. Fortunately, as I said, we talked it out. He knew that I would have never condoned what happened. He accepted my apology, and I told him that these guys should be put in jail. If they did that, you know, I wasn't going to defend them. Unfortunately, they got a get out of jail free card when they say OJ told me. Nothing I could do about that. But I want to point out that, you know, Bruce, I knew his family. I mean, when his mother was terminally ill, I'd call, she was a fan, I'd call her and sing to her. The night before or the night of the jury's verdict, his son actually called me and tried to give me a head up on something to do with memorabilia and told me that he and his mother was cheering for me. You know, this family knows that I wouldn't wish any harm on these guys, ever. These I think we're friends again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Simpson.
Good morning, ma'am.
I conducted your last hearing in 2013 with hearing representative,
yes.
Mr. Robin Bates. You recall that hearing?
Yes, I do.
All right. At the time, we asked you what your plan would be if we were to grant you 2-year consecutive sentence. And you told us that you are going to complete the commitment to change. Have you done that?
No, I haven't. At one point, I couldn't take the course. You know, I took 2 courses that I guess you guys don't give much credit to. It's called Alternative to Violence. I think it's the most important course anybody in this prison can take because it teaches you how to deal with conflict through conversation. I've been asked many, many times here to mediate conflicts between individuals and groups. And it gave me so many tools how to use it to try to walk these guys through, not throwing punches at one another. Also, at one point, a couple of guys came to me and they said, OJ, I understand you're a Baptist. We're Baptists and we have no Baptist service here. Can you help us get a Baptist service here? I worked with them. We now have an ongoing Baptist service that's well attended. I attended religiously and Pontius attended. And I realized in my 9 years here that I was a good guy on the street. I'm sure when Bruce get here, he'll tell you I was always a good guy. But I could have been a better Christian, and my commitment to change was to be a better Christian.
All right, thank you. Well, we do know that you've programmed over your term of incarceration, and you have completed victim empathy, alternative to violence, both basic and advanced, and computer application. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about victim empathy and alternative to violence, and how it will benefit you in the future.
Well, as I said, the alternative to violence courses, I've always thought I've been pretty good with people, and I've basically spent a conflict-free life. I'm not a guy that ever got into fights on the street and with the public and everybody, but as I said, they give you a bunch of little tools about how to talk to people instead of fighting, instead of throwing punches. Tools that I've used here that, is how you talk to people, it's the tone that you use. The victim empathy was, once again, I didn't really see that, in this case, I didn't really see that Alfred Beardsley was really affected by it all. But Bruce was affected. Bruce was, I saw that he was affected, and as I said, I would have done anything not to have that happen. If for no other reason, I regret this because he had to have this guy point a gun at him. And he told me, he said, man, the guy put a gun in my face. And I said, as I said in the beginning, I didn't believe it, but I know it's to be a fact now. So, in that empathy course, it pretty much tells the guys who's all there. They have you talk to your victim and what would you say to him, if you were to see him now, and for you to take, responsibility for what you did and to recognize how it affected their lives. As I said, Bruce expressed to me how it affected him, and as I told him, I couldn't be more apologetic for him going through that.
Thank you. I know that alcohol was a factor in the instant offense. Have you addressed this issue as you stated you would?
Well, I think I made it clear back then, I've never had an alcohol problem. And if I took that alcohol course, it would have been more, for my children, in case they ended up having a problem. Well, my kids don't have a problem. I don't think anybody's ever accused me of having an alcohol problem or any kind of substance problem. Of course, on that day, I had drinks on that day, but it was a wedding celebration. But I've never had a substance problem at all. So I didn't.
Okay, well, you told us in our last hearing that you were going to attend an AA, and that's the reason for my question.
Yes, I know.
Was a factor in the instant offense. Hadn't you been drinking that day?
Yes, as I said, we were celebrating a wedding thing. I felt that the alternative to violence course and my involvement with the church, I also as recently became the commissioner of the softball league, 18-team league. My primary responsibility was rules enforcement and player deportment. Guys is hot, the guys play, they argue. My job is that they get surly with one another, to remove them from the game, and if it goes beyond that, to go to Coach Fraley and have them suspended. I've never got any blowback from the guys because they know that I've done the best that I can, and I'm just trying to keep them out of trouble. So my agenda was full, here. I've been active, totally active in all the years I've been here. I don't have much time to sit around and do anything. I don't know if that answers your question, but
So of all of the programs that you had an opportunity to complete, what do you believe is the most significant for you personally?
Well, for me personally, it was alternative to violence. As I said, I think that should be mandatory for every inmate here. Once again, guys get hot here, and we've had our share of fights here, and as I said, I've been called in sometimes to try to keep guys from fighting. And you have groups, it's the Serenos are fighting the Northtown boys. They all, I mean, it's crazy. And most of the time, it's over something really, really stupid. In a basketball game, somebody will say something to somebody, or somebody will go to somebody to complain to them about it, and it's how they complain to them about it that actually initiated the conflict, the fights. So I for the life of me, I don't understand why that is not a mandatory course for everybody here. Excuse me, my mind is trying to think of other things, but that's the course that I would recommend to everybody. I mean, I took a computer course here, not because I was computer illiterate, but I took the computer course because I sometimes I could never get my kids on the phone, but if you text them or send something to them on a computer, you can get them. So I actually took that course so I could better communicate with my children.
All right, and have these programs prepared you to return to the community setting?
I believe so. I've missed a lot of time, like 36 birthdays with my children, and I spent the 12 years leading up to this incident in Vegas raising two kids in LA. I mean, I'm sorry, in Miami, and with all the media stuff, we got these guys like Jeffrey Felix making up stories and stuff. That was happening out on the street also. But I was able to keep their eye on the ball. They had great grades. They went to the college of their choice, and I ended up missing their graduation because of it. Trust me. I wish it would have never happened, but as I said, the courses that I take, and I hope it helps me more if I run into those conflicts with my kids. I'm not a guy that has conflicts on the street. I don't expect to have any when I leave here, but I feel that I'm much better prepared. But more so from, I think, my commitment to being a better Christian, because I thought I was a good guy. I had some problems with fidelity in my life, but I've always been a guy that pretty much got along with everybody.
Are you humbled by this incarceration?
Oh, yes, for sure. As I said, I wish it would have never happened. I was going to start, I didn't know how we were going to do this, by apologizing to the people of Nevada, because I wish this would have never happened. I apologized to them at my sentencing. There's nothing I can do about this kind of media circus that's going on right now, but I could do something about the whole thing in the beginning. If I would have made a better judgment back then, none of this would have happened. And I take full responsibility, because I should have never, I haven't made any excuses in 9 years here, but I should have never allowed these alleged security guys to help me, because it turned out they were only trying to help themselves. If they weren't there, Bruce and I, we tried to do this. We tried to sit down in the room and call this guy Mike Gilbert and discuss it all, but these guys took over and we were unable to do that. If we were able to do that, you would have never heard about this. None of us would be here today.
Okay, and lastly, I'd like you to know that we received hundreds of letters of support and opposition. And while we always encourage public input, the majority of the opposition letters are asking us to consider your 1995 acquittal and the subsequent civil judgment. However, these items will not be considered in this case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Simpson, when we grant offenders parole, one of the conditions of parole we will impose is to pay court-ordered restitution. In this case, you and your co-defendants were ordered to pay $3,560 in restitution and return 12 Montana lithographs to the victims. Can you tell us the status of the restitution and the return of the property taken during the robbery?
Well, one, I was unaware of the restitution. I do know about the prints. When I was talking to Bruce on the phone and asking him, was there anything else that should be yours? He said, the cell phone, right? So I said, do you want to come and meet us with that, or or how do you want to do it? Mr. Cashmore, now the guy didn't know, Mr. Cashmore said, hey, I got to go by that hotel, I'll drop it off, right? He testified to this too. This is not an allegation from me. Mr. Cashmore testified to it. So I say, hey, this guy is going to come back, he's going to drop it off at the hotel. His testimony later was that he didn't remember the name of who he was supposed to drop it off to, and that they had decided to screw OJ, we're going to keep this stuff. I mean, this is his testimony in court. The last thing I heard is that he actually tried to use those prints I can't find the word, to get his bail, with his bail bondsman. He was trying to use it as, I can't think of the word.
The restitution.
Restitution for his
and
bail
the
bondsman.
lithographs.
So the last that I know of these lithographs was that this Cashmore had them. I didn't know this guy, that he had them, and he testified to the fact in court that he had them.
The restitution was paid.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
The restitution was paid, I'm told, by my lawyer. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the total restitution has been paid?
Yes.
And there is no pending, the property has been returned to the lithographs as well?
I have no idea what this guy's, oh yeah, he says that they have been returned to him. I'm sorry, Bruce just signaled me that they have been returned to him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, sir.
All right. All right. If granted parole as opposed to completing your sentence in prison, you will be under supervision in the community. Why is it better?
Well, you know, I do have 4 kids. I've missed a lot of time with those kids. I think I am a guy who's always been a giving guy. I've, even on the street, people have always come to me, you know, my reputation has always been that I'm open to the public, I'm open to everybody, you know. Right now I'm at a point in my life where all I want to do is spend time with as much time as I can with my children and my friends, and I'm not looking to be involved with the media. I've had so many offers for interviews when I've been here in Lovelock, and I've turned them all down. I'm not interested in any of that. I've done my time. You know, I've done it as well and as respectfully as I think anybody can. I think if you talk to the wardens, they'll tell you I've been. I gave them my word. I believe in the jury system. I've honored their verdict. I've not complained for 9 years. All I've done is try to be helpful and encourage the guys around there, hey man, do your time, fight in court, and don't do anything that's going to extend your time. And that's the life I've tried to live because I want to get back to my kids.
Do you realize that if you're granted parole, you could be returned to prison for any violation or conditions of parole?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. Now, some of those conditions can be easily as not drinking alcohol to excess, associating with ex-felons, leaving the state without permission, being subject to search and seizure. So there's going to be a whole slew of conditions you're going to have.
Beyond a doubt. I mean, I haven't drank in 9 years and I haven't missed it. You know, most of my life, I could be stopped and searched whenever they, you know, I'm not a guy who lived a criminal life. You know, I'm a pretty straight shooter. I've always tried to be a good soldier, and I have no problem, none whatsoever, in living with those conditions.
All right, so here's the other side of that. As an easily recognized person in the community, if you're granted parole, how will you handle public scrutiny in the community?
Well, I've been recognized ever since I was 19 years old. Wherever we've been, it's always a crowd. This is not new to me. Rarely have I even in the last 20 years, rarely have I even had any person give me any negative stuff in the street. I mean, give you looks and everything, but I'm pretty easily approachable. I've dealt with it my whole life, and I really don't foresee any problem dealing with the public now at all.
Okay, and Mr. Simpson, we've been, since we've been made aware that you're requesting to live in Florida, I've asked Captain Sean Arudi to come to today's hearing and explain the pre-release and interstate compact process for us. Captain Arudi is an officer with the Nevada Division of Parole and Probation. He's also the Interstate Compact Commissioner for the state of Nevada, so I'm going to ask him to come forward. And again, these are things that would happen behind the scenes with any hearing that we would have, but because we have a crowd of people that are asking questions, we thought it'd be best to have Captain Arudi present to explain it to everyone.
Thank you. I mean, I could easily stay in Nevada, but I don't think you guys want me here.
I have no comments.
Good morning, Captain Sean Arudi from the Department of Public Safety, Division of Parole and Probation. As Chairman Bisbee shared with you, I serve two roles. I'm a captain with the Division of Parole and Probation for headquarters, and I also serve as the commissioner for Nevada for the Interstate Compact. When it comes to the Interstate Compact, the things that are looked at is what is your support system in that other state? Are you a resident of the other state as defined by the compact, meaning that you were living there for at least a year prior to the date that you committed the offense? Or do you have resident family there that can serve as your support system? And resident family is fairly specific, but adult siblings and adult children can serve as your resident family sponsor to provide you with that tie to the other state that would allow you to qualify for a transfer. But that's just the first part of it. First, we have to establish what your support system is and whether or not you qualify for that transfer, and then we make the determination if it's in your best interest to request that transfer for you. Once we make that decision, there's an offender application for transfer, which includes a waiver of extradition, which is required to be signed before anyone is allowed to submit a request for transfer to another state. What that does is it outlines to you what the requirements of the compact are, that you're subject to terms and conditions not only by the sending state, which in this case would be Nevada, but also by the receiving state. If you were looking to join your family in Florida, that Florida would be able to impose conditions on you that would be consistent in the same manner that they would treat one of their own offenders in a like circumstance. From once that offender application for transfer with the waiver of extradition serves the purpose that if for some reason you violate the terms and conditions of your supervision, you understand that Nevada has the authority to come and return you to Nevada to answer for those violations. Once we obtain that signed offender application, we will process that along with the other paperwork and documents that we need to submit to the other state, and they will then have up to 45 days to conduct their investigation on whether or not you qualify for the transfer and whether or not you have a valid plan of supervision. Once they determine that, Their caseworkers will forward that through their compact office back to the Nevada compact office. And once we have a decision by that other state, then that would be provided to you through your case manager at the Department of Corrections. That's how the interstate compact part works. On the pre-release side, the pre-release, we have pre-release specialists who work closely with the caseworkers at the Nevada Department of Corrections. And they help to develop that valid plan of supervision we were talking about. What is your plan of release? Where do you want to go to? Who's your support system? Once they make that determination, they process the information that's necessary. And in this case, if you were to apply for an interstate compact, our pre-release specialists would be the ones to forward those documents to the other state for their consideration. Once the determination was made and once a valid plan was developed, then they would work with your caseworker to set up your release, and your caseworker would then manage the release through the Nevada Department of Corrections.
Yes, sir.
Does the panel have any questions for Captain O'Reilly? I do not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eddie. Now, Mr. Laverne, I'm going to refer to the two of you, you and Mr. Simpson. We'd like Mr. Simpson to be able to tell us anything else he'd like to tell us. We'd also like to hear from one of the supporters if one of them wishes to make a brief statement to the board. And we would also like to hear your statement, Mr. Laverne. So I'm going to put that back to you as to what order you want those two things to happen.
We're going to hear from We're going to hear from Mr. Simpson's daughter, Arnel Simpson, first, and then I'll make some closing remarks.
Okay, and Officer Batista, if you will make that switch for us, please.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good morning, ma'am, and if you will give us your name and for the record and your relationship to Mr. Simpson.
Yes, I am Arnel Simpson, my dad's oldest child of 4.
Okay, Ms. Simpson, welcome, and feel free to speak.
Thank you. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me.
So are we.
I know it's a lot. As you know, I'm here on behalf of my family for the purpose of expressing what we believe is the true character of my father. No one really knows how much we have been through this ordeal in the last 9 years. Excuse me. My experience with him is that he's like my best friend and my rock. And as a family, we recognize that he is not the perfect man, but he's clearly a man and a father who has done his best to behave in a way that speaks to his overall nature and character, which is always to be positive no matter what. He has spent the last 9 years in Lovelock, as we all know, and has been a perfect inmate, following all the rules and making the best of the situation, which is truly amazing to me under the circumstances. The choice that he made 9 years ago that resulted in the sentencing were clearly inappropriate and wrong and counterproductive to what he was trying to achieve. As a family, we were all there to celebrate a wedding of a very good friend. As his daughter, I can honestly say my dad recognizes that he took the wrong approach and could not handle the situation. He could have handled the situation differently. My siblings, I, and family know that he didn't make the right decision on that day, but we know that intentions were not to go in and to just make the wrong decision at the wrong time. Throughout this ordeal, we have remained close. We have stayed strong. And I, for myself, am grateful to God for giving us the strength to get through this last 9 years and to stay positive always, no matter what. And a lot of that is because of him. So on behalf of my family, my brother, my sister, an aunt, an uncle, his friends, we just want him to come home. We really do. We want him to come home. And I know in my heart that he's very humbled throughout the situation. This has been hard. Let me be honest. This has been really, truly hard. And there's no right or wrong way to explain how to handle this. But we do know that, I know that he is remorseful. He truly is remorseful. And we just want him to come home so that we can move forward for us, quietly, but to move forward. So I thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. We appreciate you being present and we appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
And Officer Batista will bring Mr. Laverne and Mr. Simpson back to the table, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Laverne, this would be the time for you and Mr. Simpson to make any closing remarks that you'd like to make.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Do you have a copy of a letter I provided through your liaison? It's an undated letter from Mr. Simpson to Assemblyman Osvaldo Fumo. That should have been provided to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We do have that
all right.
as part of the record.
So give me 2 seconds to get set up here, because that's where I'm going to start. Did you take the letter? I can't find it now. Switch. So. And the letter, as you can see, is very short, so I think it would be appropriate just to read it into the record, if the commissioners would allow me to.
That'd be fine.
Okay. But the first thing I have to do is find it. Here it is. By way of setting this letter up, by the way, the most important part about this letter is that this was not a letter that Mr. Simpson provided to me, okay? What happened is Mr. Simpson at some point wanted me to communicate with an individual by the name of Osvaldo Fumo. He's an assemblyman now, and prior to that time, and still now, he's an attorney. And in the interest of full disclosure, he actually was one of Mr. Simpson's attorneys during the habeas proceedings related to this case. But since that time, Osvaldo, or Ozzy as I call him, he's a friend of mine too, he became an assemblyman with the Nevada legislature. And after that, Mr. Simpson sent Mr. Fumo a letter, and I found out about that letter not through Mr. Simpson. I found out about this letter through Mr. Fumo when I was advised to thank Ozzy Fumo for providing some books and some educational equipment to the prison here at Lovelock, Nevada. And so I'm going to read that letter. And by the way, Mr. Simpson did authenticate this letter this morning. I'd only produced this to him this morning when I got to see him prior to this hearing. He did indicate that he was the one who wrote this letter. And even though it's not dated, he indicated it was probably sent to Ozzy within the last 9 months or so. Dear Legislator Fumo, first of all, allow me to say how happy I was to hear about your new position as a state legislator, although I was not surprised to hear about your interest in furthering the education and helping of prison inmates. I must admit I've always taken my exposure to education for granted, partly due to my prowess as an athlete. I have always been afforded opportunities for higher education.
It wasn't until I got to prison that I realized just how many people did not have the exposure to said education, in part because of their circumstances, i.e. gangs, bad neighborhoods, lack of parental supervision, poverty, etc. But Ozzie, I can't tell you how inspiring it is to see how said inmates have taken advantage of the educational department and the advantages that it offers. I have seen a change in some inmates as far as their self-esteem goes that is amazing. They come to me to talk about subjects that they would have never even thought about before their exposure to education. They talk to me about things they want to do when they are released, things they never would have thought about they were capable of before. They say, quote, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," end quote, and as a, quote, "old dog," end quote, my friend, I can tell you that is not true. I am currently taking a computer science course, or just a computer course that has shown me that even I am capable of learning new skills. These new skills, at the very minimum, will help me better communicate with my children. Who knows, you may even see a webcast or blog in my future. I work in the athletic department here at Lovelock, and I fully enjoy what I do and can tell you that this is very important for the inmates to have a release for their energy and for recreation. But I can think of no better place to use state funds than to educate, add to their self-esteem, and to prepare these guys for their eventual release. In closing, I want to tell you how much I look forward to following your political career and your participation in what I know will be a very successful prison educational program. Gratefully yours, Arnel J. Simpson. And it's signed by Mr. Simpson. And the reason I wanted to read this to you is because, and just kind of surprise Mr. Simpson with it, is because obviously this is Mr. Simpson's, what I would consider one of Mr. Simpson's first opportunities to have clout in the political system of the state of Nevada. He pretty much has an end at that point. He has Ozzie Fumo, who they had an attorney-client relationship with, a very good relationship, and now Ozzie is in the assembly. He's in a position of power. And what does Mr. Simpson do? Does he say, "Ozzie, can I have a better bed?" Or does he say, "Ozzie, can you pull some strings, get me out of here earlier?" No, he doesn't do any of that. He uses that clout. The one time he has some clout in the state of Nevada, he uses that clout to obtain funding for books and education in this prison. And some of those men, as Mr. Simpson said, they really are going to get out and they're going to have a decent and a better life for themselves as the result of Mr. Simpson's efforts through Mr. Fumo. I think that's the definition of character. And frankly, I think if it was me personally who had been in prison for 9 years, and frankly, forget 9 years, 9 days, if I had that opportunity in a position of someone in a position of power who could do something for me like this, I would be saying, "Get me out of jail," okay? But he doesn't do that. It is very, very, very selfless. He's thinking about the people here, and it's also the definition someone had asked earlier about being humbled and some humility. It also shows a genuine form of humility that he has the capabilities to think of people here who are not as empowered and not as privileged as he has been, and when he gets out, probably will continue to be in society. So that's the first part of my closing remarks. The second part of my closing remarks is to deal with the other individual in this case that was a victim. He's not here. Mr. Fremong is sitting right here, and that's Mr. Beardsley. Mr. Beardsley, as you, I'm sure, are aware, is no longer with us. He passed away in about November of 2015. However, Mr. Beardsley and Mr. Fremong have made calls to my office, and I've spoken to them both at various points. And the last time I recall speaking to Mr. Beardsley was in September of 2011. This is not that long after I had maybe been representing Mr. Simpson for a couple of years at that point. I was a little uncomfortable that Mr. Beardsley, who is a victim in a case, and my client is considered the person who victimized him, was calling me. So I did explain to him that I wanted to record the conversation, and he consented, and I asked him if he wanted an attorney before he talked to me. He said he was fine. I say this, I bring up this recorded conversation because I reviewed it in anticipation of this hearing, and that was from 2011, as I stated before. And since he's no longer here, I think I could just speak from the dead, speak from someone who's speaking from the dead. He indicated in no uncertain terms in that conversation that he had cleared up this matter with Mr. Simpson. He was trying his hardest to do whatever he wanted to get Mr. Simpson out of prison, and they had just made it right. Mr. Simpson had apologized to him, and they had just basically made it right. And he was and he had sent letters to Mr. Simpson and Mr. Simpson hadn't responded, and that was probably on the advice of counsel at the time. And then also there was another issue and Mr. Simpson has raised this issue, and I want to emphasize this again, that Mr. Beardsley had a set of photos, and these are not memorabilia. Mr. Simpson, if he didn't make his point already, he could care less about some signed football or some signed photos. He could care less about it. He could rip them up and burn them up. I know they mean a lot to a lot of people, but that was not what was really the true impetus for what happened here. What was the true impetus is that there were intimate family photos that were taken from him, literally stolen. And there's no dispute that these would not be any type of judgment, collections. These are just intimate family photos. Mr. Simpson had a former family. He had a second family. There's pictures of him with his mother and other things, famous celebrities, and they were not subject to being taken. They probably have no value to most people, but they have all the value in the world of Mr. Simpson. They're not footballs, and that's what set it off. And Mr. Beardsley had these photos, or he at least represented to me on the phone that he had these photos, and I had made every effort that I could to try and obtain those intimate family photos that I was well aware were basically all Mr. Simpson wanted in the first place. Unfortunately, whatever happened, Mr. Beardsley was never able to get those to me. He explained that he had them, and I tried to make every effort to get those from him. And then at some point along the line, we lost contact, and then I just discovered that he had passed away. But I will speak on Mr. Beardsley's behalf from that phone conversation that at least as of September of 2011, him and Mr. Simpson had made things right. Okay. And finally, and again, obviously the commission is not used to hearing where victims are calling people who are in prison their attorneys and having multiple conversations with them. I've also had Mr. Fremont, Bruce Fremont, who's sitting right here to my left and will testify shortly. He's also called my office. He had called before many years ago, and we had spoken, and I can't necessarily remember the substance of those conversations. They weren't recorded, or if they were, I couldn't find them in my files. But he's recently called again. He called me on July 3rd, and he called me on July 14th, and both times I missed the calls, but I called him back. And I can hear that Mr. Fremont has made things, and Mr. Simpson have made things right with each other, that he's accepted Mr. Simpson's apology wholeheartedly. He seems to be a fundamentally really, really good guy who's fallen on some hard times recently. And he told me that he would be coming in and testifying favorably for Mr. Simpson. I made sure I told him probably 15 or 20 times to say whatever he wanted to say, because, you know, obviously Mr. Simpson's attorney talking to a victim, it could be interpreted the wrong way. So again, Mr. Fremont, say whatever you want to say. Nobody's telling you how to testify here. And one of the things that we did, and I did inform the parole and probation about both of those conversations on July 3rd and July 14th. And one of the things that we did spend a lot of time, I mean, that was a small portion of our conversations, was the remorse on Mr. Simpson's part that Mr. Fremont accepted. Most of the time we were talking about some other unfortunate things that happened with Mr. Fremont. I believe, I know because I've researched this now. There was some civil litigation that went on out there, and this was against primarily against one of the uncharged co-defendants in this case, a individual named Riccio. Something happened in this civil litigation, and I don't know what's going on with it at this point in time, other than Mr. Fremont addressed those concerns with me. I told him that I would look into it. I explained to him that he really should talk to his lawyers who were involved in that civil litigation to try and make that judgment do whatever he wants it to do. And it was unfortunate. I believe that this kind of is an opportunity to show you that in the criminal case he's completely the victim, but he filed this civil lawsuit, and the jury actually found Fremont 16% liable for what happened here. It was pretty unique, to say the least. in any event, Mr. Furlong is going to testify, but I did feel that I needed to note that I don't think I have a point to prove with Mr. Furlong other than he did represent that he was going to testify favorably for Mr. Simpson, and that he did discuss with me on multiple occasions this idea of some civil judgment out there that he was hoping that Mr. Simpson could take care of for him. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Simpson, did you have any closing remarks?
I hadn't heard any, except that, you know, I've come here, I've spent 9 years making no excuses about anything. I am sorry that things turned out the way they did. I had no intent to commit a crime. I came here, I tell the inmates all the time, man, I don't want to hear about your crime. You know, argue in court here, we're all convicts. I'm a convict. Do your time and don't do anything to extend your time. I told the warden when I got here, Mr. LaGrange, I think it was, Ms. Carpenter and Ms. Megan, that I would be no problem. I believe in this jury system. I will honor what the jury said, and I will be no problem, you know, and I think I kept my word. As I said, I've done my time. I'd just like to get back to my family and friends, and believe it or not, I do have some real friends, but I don't think I could have represented this prison. I don't think any inmate has ever represented it better than I. I did my time. I tried to be helpful to everybody. And as I said, Bruce and Beardsley, I made up with them years ago, you know. So I'm sorry it happened. I'm sorry to Nevada. I wish Riccio had never called me. I thought I was glad to get my stuff back, but it wasn't worth it. You know, 9 years away from your family is just not worth it. And I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just one more thing for the record. Your expiration is, as of today, 9/29/22, and for all those people in the world wonder how that adds up to 33 years in the state of Nevada. Good behavior, complying with the rules, can mean up to a 50% reduction off the back end of your sentence. If granted parole, that September 29, 2022 time could even move closer. So I wanted to put that on the record. And at this point, I'll ask Officer Batista if you will move Mr. Laverne and Mr. Simpson again, and we invite Mr. Furlong to the table, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Furlong, if you will put your own name on the record for us, please, and then proceed.
Yes, it is Bruce Furlong, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak today. First and foremost, I'd like to state that I'm not here just as Mr. Simpson's friend of almost 27 years, because that I am. But today I'm also appearing as the victim of the crime on September 30th or September 13th of 2007. On that day, I felt that Mr. Simpson was misguided, not by himself, but also by Tom Riccio. He was led to believe that on that day there were going to be thousands of pieces of his personal memorabilia, pictures of his wife, from his first marriage, pictures of his kids, Arnel and Jason, family heirlooms. He was told there were going to be possibly his wife's wedding ring, thousands of things. He was misled about what was going to be there that day. A man named Thomas Riccio had promised him this big package. In reality, Thomas Riccio had never met me. Never had met me in his entire life till the night of the robbery. He got there and saw all this stuff. He went down, he got OJ, And instead of telling him that that's not what was there, he brought him up anyway. And when OJ got there, unfortunately, he was already worked up and had people with him that were hollering and screaming. There was a lot of commotion going on in a very, very small room. Real small room, wasn't it, OJ? And a lot of things happened very quickly. And unfortunately, if OJ had just said, everybody out of here, Bruce and I need to talk for a minute, none of this needed to happen. But that didn't happen. And it took, one of the things I want to make clear is that it took me 2 years in a California court, because in a judge's infinite wisdom, instead of going ahead and turning things back over, everything got sent to a California court to get straightened out. And after having to fight the Goldman's lawyers, OJ's lawyers, and it took me 2 years to get back with over 600 items. A majority of it did come back to me because I had to go back 19 years through our friendship, but I had to go back 19 years and produce records for almost 98% of the stuff. And it is true that items in that room belonged to OJ. There were no two ways about it. But it's also true that I have never stolen anything from OJ. I have never stolen from OJ. I think OJ will admit that I did not ever take anything from you. It wasn't me. An ex-partner of mine and his mistress, Christy Lukemeyer, have taken things. Other people have taken things from OJ, but I have never stolen from OJ. OJ is my friend, always has been, and I hope will remain my friend. But there were things in that room, and I admit to that. And I'm sorry things did not work out differently. But there were, and I will make this clear to you, OJ never held a gun on me. There was a coward in that room, a man named McClinton, came up gangster style, acting like a big man. He held the gun on me, not OJ. Another man came in, hit me, not OJ. He never laid a hand on me. A lot of people are yelling, bag that stuff up. Let's get out of here. During the trial, after I'd already testified against OJ, and this is why I absolutely believe him, after I'd already testified against OJ, I'd already said everything I had to say, we happened to pass each other in the hallway. And OJ came up to me and said, can I talk to you for a minute? And we had a chance to talk to each other. And I told him I'm sorry that I did not get the opportunity to call him and tell him that I had that stuff. Those few items that belonged to him, I told him I'm sorry that I did not take the opportunity to call him, because we'd been apart for a long time. We hadn't had a chance to talk for many, many years. And I'd been buying stuff from Mike Gilbert, and I wish I had of. And he said, Bruce, I can't tell you how sorry I am. And we've got a saying between us, it is what it is. And he put his hand out, I shook his hand, and I said, I forgive you. We all make mistakes. OJ made his. He's been here, and from what I've told, he's been a model inmate. He's been an example to others. During the trial, I recommended that he serve 1 to 3 years. That's what I recommended to the DA. And I'm here to say that I've known OJ for a long time. I don't feel that he's a threat to anyone out there. He's a good man. I know that he does a lot for other people. And I feel that 9.5 to 33 years was way too long. And I feel that it's time to give him a second chance. It's time for him to go home to his family, his friends. This is a good man. He made a mistake. And if he called me tomorrow and said, Bruce, I'm getting out, will you pick me up? Juice, I'll be here tomorrow for you. I mean that, buddy.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments and we appreciate you being present today. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
So Mr. Laverne, and you're welcome. Mr. Laverne and Mr. Simpson, if you'll return to the table, please. And before we will break for deliberation, I want to ask the panel members if they have any other last questions, anything that... Okay. What's going to happen now is deliberation. Again, another thing we do with every single case, but a little differently today because frankly we need our offices back, folks. So we're hoping to deliberate, come to an agreement, and be able to produce an order sometime in the next 30 minutes or so. So what's going to happen is we are going to break, and then after deliberating, we'll come back to this room. I'll ask each commissioner to vote. I'll vote myself if we are able to agree when those votes are cast. That will be a final decision. If it becomes obvious that there is a split on this particular panel, I have Commissioners Eddie Gray and Commissioner Michael Keeler stand by in Las Vegas, and we will call them, they will either cast a vote then or ask for deliberate to return to deliberation. So that is what we're planning at this moment. We are about to leave the room. I know Officer Batista is going to arrange to clear the courtroom there also. I ask that here that you give us about 2 minutes to clear out of the room so that you're not chasing us down the hall. And then we'll give you a 5-minute notice that our deliberation is over and that we're ready to cast votes. So on that, I will call this hearing into recess, and we will return after deliberation.
Well, I'm gonna see, maybe they'll let me go out into that room and my phone on a good signal. Try that.
There's a restroom right here. There's one right here on the left as you go through this door. What are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to send photos, I'm having a really hard time sending from this room.
Oh, there's a whole room. I might want to ask the PIO person.
about Randy?
We lost pool. Hey, we lost pool at about 12 after, I think, number 11. Do you have any questions, or were you able to continue with the feed? Yes. This number, 702-285-9479. 9479. Thank you. I need 5 minutes. I haven't been able to get anything out to the pool for the last about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna reset that.
I don't know. I'm off on it. You're the only one on it right now. Right now.
So she said about half an hour. I don't know how long, it could be 10 minutes.
Yeah, it could be 10 minutes, it could be, I guess, 45 if they want, I mean.
Yeah, okay.
But they give us a 5 minutes heads up, so.
I got a screenshot so you know.
Did you get a fabulous picture of me over here? Standing, sitting here in
Someone
this.
just sent me a text.
Well.
Yeah. Yeah, we can just. He's just trying to get back on the form. So I'll support him like that. So it's hard. Do you wanna?
I locked up one complete send.
Can you do that? Can we get out, bang it out, come right back in? We can come in quicker. You don't have to stay out there. You can go out and save your stuff, and we can come right back in, and you can work on this.
Any what?
Turn it up. You want yours on? I turned it on. I did. I took yours on too. It seems like something. Okay. Okay.
How are you all doing? You want to do mic checks? My name is Ken Ritter, that's R-I-T-T-E-R. I'm with the Associated Press. For those of you who have been, I'll come back around to some sort of a statement. For those of you who have been getting the pool report, we've had it locked up on us about 15 minutes ago, so questions, I'll take questions about that when we get to it. Okay. And should we start now? Okay, good morning. If it's still morning. My name is Ken Ritter, R-I-T-T-E-R. I'm a reporter with the Associated Press. I work out of the Las Vegas Bureau. I have been here with you this morning covering Mr. Simpson's appearance before the Nevada Parole Board. Most of you have seen the stream. I would prefer if you wanted to ask, begin with questions, but I can tell you that Mr. Simpson looked trimmer than we last remember him. I know that he was about 6'3", 235 listed in prison records. He seems to be about to that. He is now 70. And parts of the hearing seemed emotional for him. In the hearing room with him were his lawyer, Malcolm Laverne from Las Vegas, his sister, Shirley Baker from Sacramento, his daughter, Arnel Simpson, who lives in the Fresno area, and his close friend, Tom Scotto from Naples, Florida. What emerged today appeared to be a plan for Mr. Simpson to live in Florida. And I have had conversations with Mr. Scotto earlier, which would suggest Mr. Simpson may live with him. That was not declared today among the elements of the Interstate Compact for Parole that were being outlined during the hearing. You probably heard the questions that Mr. Simpson was asked, and you have probably been able to assess how he answered them on camera. I will tell you off camera there were no disturbances in the room. The other person in the room, you also saw Bruce Fromong, the victim in the crime, and he also spoke. Are there questions that you'd like to ask me at this time?
Mr. Simpson and the victim.
Question is, what were the interactions, if any, between Mr. Simpson and the victim? There was a interesting interaction near the end, and I'm doing this from memory. My notes, unfortunately, are captured, by the internet at the moment, where Mr. Framong said, turned to Mr. Simpson and said, in essence, if you were let out tomorrow, you could come with me. I will be there for you, Juice, or Juice, I will be there for you. Bruce Framong represents that he's been Mr. Simpson's friend for 27 years. They have worked together. They have autograph business and things like that with Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson became, I would think that was emotional. He appeared to wipe a tear, looked down, looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. I don't believe he cried, but I know he was emotional. You saw him when he returned back to the desk, and you can assess the red eyes at that point. That was probably the most emotional of the hearing. The hearing was somewhat tense at the beginning until a laughter icebreaker, and I'd have to go back to my notes that are not here, but you saw it, and you saw that part of that. Question? I'm here and willing to answer any other questions for a couple of minutes. I would very much like to get with my desk so that I can continue filing a report that appears to have gotten a little bit hung up. I'm hopeful that the AP report is rolling. Do I think OJ was at ease in this situation or nervous? It's hard to characterize Mr. Simpson as at ease in this situation. I covered him at trial in Las Vegas. I know him in relative comfort when he's talking with friends and his attorneys in court hallways. This is not that. Mr. Simpson's freedom is on the line. He clearly knows it. And he clearly wanted to tell the board that he would do well if he's released. He also was, the word may not be adamant. I thought he was forceful. He leaned forward at one point I believe it was about not knowing that guns were in the room, and that material and that the items that were taken were his. He has maintained throughout that the items that they were after, that he went there to retrieve from Bruce Framong and Alfred Beardsley, were his belongings, family photos. You heard those things.
Emily?
You saw Arnel and heard what Arnel said and how she delivered it. She came prepared with yellow note paper. She was steady as she read, and then returned to her seat next to Miss Shirley Baker, and they hugged. And Miss Arnel dabbed her eyes with a tissue. I think she was quite emotional at that point, at the release of having read the statement that she had prepared.
Sorry, could you spell your name again for me?
First name Ken, K-E-N, last name Ritter, R-I-T-T-E-R, and I'm with the Associated Press. I'm very glad to help you today. If you can let me go and do some of my work, I might be able to help you more. Thank you all. looks like mine went. Oh, they went.
Good or bad?
Good.
You guys are rolling off on that.
Am I hogging bandwidth from you?
I don't know.
I just unblocked you. So now you both are on it.
Communication down this through.
What's up, Ken?
I was just stopping to say hello.
All right, well, hey.
I had some transmission issues.
Transmission issues for what?
From-
Oh, I thought you were a
from the
car?
pool. No, from the pool.
Oh, you're talking about transmission. You gotta
And
talk
then
to me like
and I
a
went out to-
layperson. I need transmission. I thought your car went out on you.
And I went out to speak with the media. When I do that, the next time I do that will be right after the decision. Do you want to come out also?
Maybe.
Come with me. It'd be a good idea.
I'll see.
Bring Arnel.
No, that's not happening. It's not happening.
And Tommy.
It's not happening.
Please come with me.
No, I might, but the other things you're talking about aren't happening.
Any surprises on this? Can I quote you saying anything here?
Not media, sir.
No, let's just let them have their decision, okay?
This is Ms. Shirley Mull. She
I'm
works
at
for
the
the
state. If you need anything.
She's also taking photos, so she has
Yeah.
your images.
Gracias.
If she just,
Keep in mind,
I was going to say the letter.
you're the Associated Press, and I'm still leery of you. There's like the New York Times, right? And then like Associated Press is probably somewhere in there. And I'm still leery of you. So, but the letter, I already told you about the letter.
Are we
It's
recording?
been communicated. That doesn't bother me. I come from truth.
They just
Did you see me leave anything out there? I had my bag, but I don't know.
Get your quarters?
I got my quarters. Got my folders.
John, tell everybody that.
I got it. That was
5 minutes. Ask Brooke. She knows what I'm asking.
Are they bringing him in again? Okay. They're not live yet.
That's it.
Yeah, take a seat.
Are we ready?
Thank you. How's the family? Well, I'll talk to you. I could talk to him after.
The warden has to approve everything.
Oh, I can't even talk to him after.
Not happening. I already tried.
Waited this long.
Yeah. My best to the kids.
Put him on the visitor list.
got a couple minutes to go on your end.
Here it is.
Good. My best to my favorite lady. I want to speak.
She could be so happy.
Tell her I wanted to call her, but I don't call anybody from here. You know, they're my family.
I think I relayed that to her before.
No, this is an elderly former writer for AP. You know, his predecessor. Linda Deutsch.
She said the best, by the way.
This.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm talking to no one here. I'm talking to no one. I'm talking to space. This Jeffrey Felix is a complete fraud.
I told,
he wrote a book about me.
I told you I'd handle it. You know,
Okay.
I've told all the news networks for over a year now. This guy is ridiculous, but you know,
How much heat I'm taking from all the guys telling me I should sue this guy.
I will. But they believe what they want to believe. You know.
They do. Sensationalism.
You get
squashed everything
ice cream.
as quickly as possible.
Cookies. Cookies. I mean, it's infantile.
I didn't hear that there was a fight over the cookies.
Well, he saved you. You know, he saved you. He saved you from having any infractions because you were going to get written up for it, right?
Thank you.
You're going to get written up, and he intervened, and he saved you. So he's your savior. Who would believe anyone with a mullet like that? Dyed hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one and only. That's for sure.
I'm glad you said it, but I was thinking about it.
Well, it's disrespectful to the COs here, the real COs who do these jobs here all the time and have done a great job. And Mr. Simpson has always spoken phenomenally well about the conditions here and how he's been treated. And so I just think it's just a disgrace.
This guy is unbelievable. This guy was never even assigned to my portion of the prison, ever.
No, he wouldn't be able to spot yourself.
You know, when I would see him, is when we would go in the store. We would go in the canteen. I guess he'd come out of that area and he'd stand at the fence and tell us these crazy stories. I mean, it's funny. I give him that. But about how he got kicked out of his son's baseball game and how he was refereeing and I mean, the guy's funny, you know. But outside of that, I don't know. His telling says I got a shrine in my room, and he walks me in the yard. I mean, the guy is, and he's shameless. Jesus.
Well, I like the fact that when it seems like he's running out of material and they have no more interest in him, he has new things that he can explain about you that you were doing. And that, I think the ice cream's new.
What, it's an ice cream store?
There is an ice cream story. I wasn't able to really read all of it, but there's some kind of ice cream story he's thrown in now. Kind of like President Trump, you know, Trump gets 2 scoops, everyone else gets 1. I think it's something like that.
I heard that.
Something ridiculous.
I swear, I wanted to say that, and I'm talking to space again, but this cutting in line that I get to all the guys, man, have I taken some stuff from all the guys about that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, Mike Tyson couldn't cut in line in prison. I mean, seriously, who cuts in line in prison, man? You find yourself 6 feet under.
I'm gonna be all red-faced laughing.
Well,
You guys, I may say something publicly after that, but I'm glad I have you on here because Mr. Simpson's always.
I call this parole hearing on Arnel James Simpson back into order. Are we ready to vote, folks?
Chairman, as we all start off. Mr. Simpson, you organized this crime in which 2 victims were robbed at gunpoint.
It was a serious crime, and there was no excuse for it. You deserve to be sent to prison. You've been in prison now almost 9 years, the minimum amount imposed by the court. You have complied with the rules of the prison. You have programmed in an acceptable manner. You have no prior conviction of criminal activity. You are low risk to reoffend on our guidelines. You have community support and stable release plans. We've heard from you and from your victim. The question here, as with all parole hearings, is whether or not you have served enough time in prison on this case. Considering all of these factors, my vote is to grant your parole effective when eligible.
Thank you.
And I concur with Commissioner Korda and grant parole. And in addition, our decision, although difficult, is fair and just. Commissioner Arnel.
I concur with Commissioner Korda and agree to grant parole.
Mr. Simpson, before I cast my vote, I want to let you know that we believe that we're a fair board. We believe that we're a consistent board. I will let you know that that consistency also goes to parole. And we do not look kindly upon parole violations. And if I cast my vote to grant and it concludes the hearing, our expectation would be that you not violate even the simplest condition of parole. Having said that, I am prepared to cast a vote. I am prepared to ask the commissioners to set conditions. If that happens, we will produce an order sometime in the next 15 to 20 minutes that will be faxed to you or presented to you at the institution, and it will become a public record. So based on all of that, Mr. Simpson, I do vote to grant parole when eligible, and that will conclude this hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
You're holding up good too, man, all these years. Oh, God, oh.
Sorry, I can't do it. But you can? We're gonna come back in here anyway, I guess.
What's our deal right now?
Well, he's gonna go out and do another spiel, and then basically we back up, I guess. I don't know how long that needs to run.
They're waiting for the bid.
Let's go.
Oh, okay. So guys, we need to pack up.
Hey, Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys good?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ken Ritter. I'm a reporter with the Associated Press. I work out of Las Vegas. I've been your pool reporter inside. I learned to bring water with me outside because you made me nervous last time. I'll start again at the top. I'll share with you as we're walking out, I think news reached the yard, and I think I heard cheers. I can report to you that Mr. Simpson won parole, but you already know that. I'd like to tell you what the reaction was in the Lovelock Parole Hearing Board room from Mr. Simpson and his family when he received parole. But the image that I'm left with is Mr. Simpson walking out of the room to with a corrections officer guard alone, and as he walked down the hallway, raising his arms and saying, "Yes." "Oh God, oh," he said. Mr. Simpson, when he heard that he had won parole, bowed his head to the table, put his hands on the table, said, "Thank you, thank you." You saw the parole board as they were delivering their comments. Mr. Corda first. Ms. Jackson, I believe, was you'll know who was third. After the third vote, Shirley Baker, Mr. Simpson's sister, began openly weeping and hugging his daughter, Arnel. And as I just described for you, Mr. Simpson's reaction when he learned. I was asked earlier if it seemed that Mr. Simpson was nervous. Any nervousness earlier was gone. I can take questions. This was relatively brief inside. You should now have the pool reports that did not go out earlier. I hope those are helpful. Yes.
What did he say as he walked down the hallway? And what did his daughter say?
I don't know what his daughter said. I know I was focused on Mr. Simpson, who is walking stiffly, I will note, perhaps the knees. It was, "Oh God, oh," I believe is what he said. As Mr. Simpson left the room, down the prison hallway, and back to his accommodations, he raised his hands over his head and he said, "Oh God, oh." And we could view him from behind through the closed door. Just as we were coming out, you might have also. If not, there certainly was a buzz. Come on, guys. I had a moment to ask Mr. Simpson's attorney, Malcolm Laverne, if he would be coming out to speak. He didn't say he wasn't, so it's possible that you'll be hearing from them as well. Thank you for pointing it out. It appears that Mr. Laverne is here. Do you have any other further questions for me? Shirley and Arnel were very emotional and hugging each other. I would have to say that. Thank yous, there were thank yous said. It's hard for me to know who was saying what. I'm gonna turn it over. I'll step back, and if you have other questions, wave me down. Glad to help. Ken Ritter, Associated Press.
Shades up and I can't even see. Hello, how are you? Doing very well. Any questions? Here's my intention. My intention is to come out and answer maybe a couple of questions for a few minutes, and then I'm going to go back and spend time with Simpson's family and Mr. Simpson, and then I'll come back out again. So this is going to be very brief. So anyway, if you're going to say something, you probably should identify your full name, your news organization, and the parent company of the news organization before you ask, okay? Is that fine? Is that a fair deal? All right, how can I help you?
How important do you think Bruce Fromong's testimony was in the ultimate decision?
I think it was it certainly didn't hurt, and I think it was actually very influential that he came in and he did what he said he was going to do to me when I talked to him on the phone over the course of a couple of weeks, which he was going to testify favorably for Simpson. So I think it was very, very good, and obviously if he had testified negatively, it kind of was going to be contradicted by what he had been telling me. That's kind of why I felt it was important to bring up that conversation with him to say what he's been telling me all along. But right now, Mr. Fromong is there with Mr. Simpson's family. They're all talking right now. He actually would. I asked, Mr. Simpson actually wanted to see Mr. Fromong. Mr. Fromong wanted to see and spend some time with Mr. Simpson. It's not being permitted at this time for various respected reasons for the Nevada Department of Corrections. But they're friends. These are friends, and they were friends. This was a big mishap. So I think it was actually very, very positive. What, in there? I don't think he said anything to me. You know, I mean, the mics were right there. You would have caught it, but I don't think he said anything. He was just very happy. He obviously was very emotional. If you were looking at the cameras, he was very emotional. So, next question.
Stephen Week, NBC Network News. Is he worried about how he's going to be received by the public?
Not at all. No. He's been in the media spotlight since he was 19. If he didn't explain it on camera, he certainly explained it, in private. So he's always used to dealing with media attention. That's never been a problem for him at all. Listen, do you know that Jeffrey Felix is a complete fraud, and everything that you said? I was actually watching you earlier this morning when you were giving your testimony.
Go back to the podium perspective.
And I've told ABC News a million times, which is also ESPN, which is also his thing. I've said a million times through your producer that this guy's a fraud and a phony, and every single thing he has in that book is made up, okay? But no, you didn't, and so I don't want you to take any questions from you because you have gone on and perpetrated a fraud for this Jeff Felix, who's supposedly the guarding the juice guy. You embarrass and make a mockery of the corrections officers over here, okay, who are actually doing a really good job. And Mr. Simpson actually has very positive things to say about the Nevada Department of Corrections. The wardens all here have treated him great. They're very compassionate. In his words, they actually treated him terrific, okay? This Jeff Felix is, I mean, you see that mullet and how his hair's dyed, right? You don't buy credibility from people who are like that, who even look like that, all right? And you should have at least tried to vet the story. For the last year, you could have vetted the story. So I'm a little bit agitated when I see you. Now, maybe I'm taking it personally because you were the one on the news repeating all this stuff that Jeff Felix said, every bit of which was false, every bit of which is unverifiable, every bit of which is untrue. But you were doing it this morning, okay? So Jeff Felix is a fraud. I don't want to take any questions about Jeff Felix. I don't know what I'll tell you exactly what Jeff Felix is. He was here, he worked in the canteen, and Mr. Simpson, like every other inmate, when they go to canteen once a week, would see this guy. And he was kind of like a minstrel. He'd sit there and tell jokes. He wanted to impress Mr. Simpson, and that's the end of it. He couldn't identify Mr. Simpson's cell, okay? Maybe he knows the unit because someone told him, but he certainly couldn't even identify the cell. And I've already got it in this has agitated me so much that I already have it in progress to strip this guy of his pension benefits. What goes on in this prison here between the Nevada Department of Corrections and its personnel, okay, is confidential. And he violated that by publishing that silly, ridiculous book that he did. So I'm starting the process right now of getting his pension stripped. And if it isn't clear with the Nevada Department of Corrections or the PERS, whoever has the benefits now, the rules definitely need to be changed or clarified that when a corrections officer like Mr. Felix discloses confidential information, of course it's false, but even when he does so based on someone's celebrity, you just get your pension benefits stripped. So let's say how he likes that when he sees the consequences of his actions right now. So I'm just going to yank all his pension benefits. Next question.
Did you expect O.J. Simpson to take such a defiant stance, especially in his early testimony, essentially relitigating the whole case?
I don't understand the question. What do you mean? How was he defiant?
He continued to insist that it wasn't his responsibility,
I don't
that
think
he had been bamboozled into the crime.
I disagree with your characterization of that.
How would you describe his
It was an explanation
testimony?
for what was going on, you know? I mean, I don't think he's taken plenty of responsibility. Anytime something like this happens, you obviously wish you could do better. The biggest thing here, what made this case more so than what it was, were the guns, okay? And so that took this case from being kind of a, somewhat of a laughingstock of a case to serious when guns are involved.
That it was his right, essentially, to go back there and get his stuff back. One would think that would be over already.
I don't think he said it was his right. I think he said he wanted it, and his stuff was his. So I don't think he said it was right. He didn't feel entitled he felt entitled to the property. He now knows that obviously you can't go, even under Nevada law and most laws of the state of the United States, you can't go and take property even though it's 100% not in dispute that the property belongs to you, okay? You can't go back and take it by force. If for some reason you stole this from me right now, okay, and then I come and I see you and you have it, all right, I can't go and beat you up and hit you with anything to take it back for myself, okay? I can't do it. And so that's it. So I'm not sure when you said he can't take responsibility. He's taken responsibility. He was just offering an explanation. Next question. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to... Not if I have anything to do with it. The answer is no. The Parole and Probation, the Nevada Department of Parole and Probation, which is known as PNP, they just stated that on the record. That's a question you can refer to them, but the date that they stated is the date they stated.
Did anything inside there surprise you?
I'm trying to think. No, I mean, there was a lot of preparation. Normally these hearings, I think to actually do a perfect hearing, a parole revocation hearing like this, you probably could have prepared, a lawyer probably could have prepared for less than an hour for this hearing, all right? You see my file here, how much I have. I don't have books of dreams of things. The whole file is in here, okay? And this one obviously was dealing with the onslaught of the media requests, dealing with various things, and dealing with the Nevada Department of Corrections through their liaisons, and dealing with the Department of Parole and Probation through their liaisons. And I may come out, but my intention right now is to go spend more time with Mr. Simpson and his family. I don't think there was anything that was surprising, because we were able to control a lot of things so well, so much, and especially the hearing. The biggest part of the hearing, obviously, for me, was making sure that certain information was just kept, obviously there's a 10,000-pound elephant in that room, and I think we were very successful in making sure that that elephant was sleeping, and that it was washed and very cleaned, and that it never started, rearing its head or knocking things around. So that was, for me, that's 100% success when that was excluded and kept out. Thank you. No, that was just a letter he had communicated to Assemblyman Fumo, and that was just in the letter. That was the content of the letter. I just read it. That was a letter from him to Assemblyman Fubo, and he's just saying a letter because he had just taken a computer course. And obviously one of the things you learn in computer courses is, if you're doing any modern day computer stuff, is web pages, blogging, all of that stuff. So he said that. So it's not something I would ever advise. What's your name? What's your name and your organization? No, I wasn't referring to that at all. I mean, come on. You know exactly what I was referring to. Come on.
Doubt he would get paroled?
Excuse me?
Did you ever doubt that he would get paroled?
Well, the answer is yes, and no. Yes, because Mr. Simpson is obviously a very polarizing figure. He's very, very well loved. But also he's, held into contempt by a lot of people. And he also wanted to thank the media for, thank the people, his fans who have communicated through the media. You won't publish the positive things that are said about him, but he's, all of his fans have sent him mail saying that they've sent a lot of information to the media. And I've never seen any of it published, maybe one article or something like that. So he wants to thank them. He wants to thank the NDOC, thank the PNP, all of these organizations. So he's just so polarizing. Going back to your question, he's just so polarizing that it was hard to really know the certainty of this. I'll tell you one thing that made me very optimistic, and I'll be very frank with you here. The one thing that made me very optimistic is that and this is something I don't think was published, is that the parole commissioners here that you saw, the 4 individuals, and then there's 2 others that are still active. It's a commission that's 7 total. Those commissioners are actually appointed. They're not elected officials, okay? So they're actually appointed by the governor, and more importantly, and this is what's important, this is why I started feeling very, very good about this, they can only be removed for impeachment, almost like a federal judge. Now, their terms expire, but they can only be removed for impeachment. So they can make decisions regardless of the outcry and the heat on them, okay? That's unlike the process that Mr. Simpson has been exposed to for the last 9 years, where he's dealing with elected judges. And listen, who wants to be the judge who has to run for office that says, I did something favorable to let O.J. Simpson go? I mean, we put on, when I say we, attorneys Tom Pitaro and attorneys Ozzie Fumo and attorneys Trish Palm, all phenomenal lawyers. They actually helped me prepare for this hearing today. They put on probably one of the strongest habeas cases you'll ever find, okay, after the conviction. And it was an uphill battle, and it was respected that it was an uphill battle. But I just, if you sit in those judges' seats and you like your judge position and you know that it's elected, if you do anything negatively if you do anything favorably for Simpson, you got to be thinking, hey, someone's going to I'm going to draw an opponent, and the first thing the opponent's going to say is, this is the judge that let O.J. Simpson go, okay? So that's it. All right, I'm going to go back and spend some more time. Huh? I'm going to go back and spend time with Mr. Simpson and his family a little bit. I'll be back after it's finished. It's kind of hot out here, and hopefully it's hot enough for you to all be gone by then. But if you're not, I'll answer some more questions, all right? Take care.